Have you ever asked yourself why the smallest things seem to set you off? One comment, one look, one delay, and suddenly you're spiraling. Your heart races. Your mind explodes with thoughts you can't stop. Maybe it's anger. Maybe it's anxiety. Maybe it's that tight feeling in your chest like something just isn't right. And afterward you ask yourself, why did I react like that? Why do I keep losing control? You're not alone. So many people live in this constant cycle of reaction, getting pulled into emotions they don't understand, saying things they regret, feeling drained by situations they never meant to give so much power to. It's exhausting, isn't it? But here's the truth. You may not have heard. It's not your fault. You're not weak. You're not broken. You're just living in survival mode. In a world that demands instant replies, immediate opinions, and constant alertness, your nervous system never gets a break. Your brain is doing what it was trained to do, protect you.
But that protection comes at a price.
Every time you snap at someone you care about, every time you stress over something you can't control, you give a piece of your peace away. You lose presence, you lose clarity, and most of all, you lose yourself. It's not the world that's causing your chaos, it's the absence of space inside you. Space to breathe, to pause, to choose. And when you don't have that space, you react, not just to people, but to life. You react to failure, to change, to uncertainty. You react because reacting is the only thing your body knows how to do under pressure. But what if you could change that? What if you could break the cycle, not by forcing yourself to stay calm, but by understanding where your reactions come from and learning to rise above them? There is a way out. A way to stop being at the mercy of everything around you. A way to reclaim your emotional freedom. It starts with awareness. It grows with intention. And it leads to a state of being where calm is not just something you chase, it's who you are. Imagine not feeling shaken by someone else's words. Imagine being able to breathe through the storm instead of getting pulled into it. Imagine feeling grounded, clear, and powerful no matter what's happening around you. This isn't just possible, it's trainable, it's within your reach. And if you stay with this journey, if you stay with this message, you will walk away with tools that change how you see, how you feel, how you live. Because the secret of calm isn't about avoiding life, it's about mastering your mind in the middle of it. And once you learn that secret, no one, not stress, not people, not fear, can take that peace from you again. Stay with me. This is the beginning of a new way to live. It's trainable. Your mind is not fixed. Your reactions are not your destiny. They're patterns. Deep ones, yes, but still patterns. And patterns can be changed. Every time you react without thinking, it's because an old program is running. Your brain learned it somewhere, maybe from past pain, maybe from childhood, maybe from years of being in survival mode. But the beautiful thing about the mind is this: it's always listening. Always watching what you do. Every thought, every pause, every decision, it's recording it all, rewiring itself in response to what you repeat. That means every moment of awareness is a chance to rewrite your inner code. You've probably felt it before, that flash of anger or fear, and then the rush of regret afterward. That's not weakness. That's your nervous system overwhelmed. But it doesn't have to be like that forever. When you learn to create space between stimulus and response, you regain your power. You stop being controlled by every comment, every delay, every glance. You start living from a place of centeredness. That space is where calm lives. And the key to unlocking it is understanding what's really happening inside you, not just emotionally, but neurologically. Your brain's threat system, the same one that helped your ancestors survive danger, is firing off alarms all day long in a world where real threats are rare, but perceived ones are everywhere. A disagreement can feel like rejection. A missed message can feel like abandonment. And your body reacts the same way it would if you were in physical danger. Adrenaline floods your system, your heartbeat accelerates, your breathing shortens, logic shuts down. That's why you can't think clearly when emotions take over. That's why you say things you don't mean. The system was built for survival, not peace. But now, your job isn't to survive. Your job is to live, fully, consciously, calmly. And that begins with seeing your reactions not as failures, but as signals. Every emotional flare-up is a message, a chance to pause, observe, and rewire. The more often you catch yourself before reacting, the more you're teaching your brain a new way of being. You're saying, it's safe. I don't need to fight this. I can respond with clarity. That's where real power lives. Not in the loudest voice, not in the strongest defense, but in the calmest presence. The most powerful people you'll ever meet are not the ones who dominate a room. They're the ones who don't get pulled into chaos. The ones who can hold their ground, breathe through the pressure, and choose their response with wisdom. You can become that person, not someday, now. It starts the moment you decide that calm is no longer optional, that it's not just a nice idea, but a non-negotiable standard for your life. Your peace matters, your clarity matters. And the first step to claiming it is choosing not to react, choosing instead to rise. Calm isn't something you find, it's something you build, brick by brick, choice by choice. And the first brick is the pause, that sacred space between what happens and what you do next. Most people never claim that space. They live in reflex, constantly reacting, pulled in every direction by emotion, expectation, fear. But when you pause, you interrupt the pattern. You give yourself a moment of breath before the storm. And in that breath, you take back control, not over the world, but over yourself. That's where your freedom begins. The pause doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you don't let your feelings decide for you. It means you feel deeply but act deliberately. That's the difference between chaos and control. The pause is where awareness lives, and awareness is the beginning of mastery. When you're aware, you stop being the victim of the moment. You become the author of your response. And every time you do that, your mind gets stronger. Your reactions soften. Your power grows. Not the kind of power that needs to shout or prove. It's quieter than that, but unshakable. The world will keep testing you. People will say things they shouldn't. Plans will fall apart. Emotions will rise. But you'll know you don't have to react. You can breathe. You can observe. You can choose. And that choice is everything. Because what you choose repeatedly becomes who you are. Choose anger and you become bitterness.
Choose silence and you become resentment. But choose pause and you become presence.
You become peace. And peace isn't passive. It's the strongest stance you can take. It means you're grounded when others are spinning. It means you're steady when everything else shakes. The more you practice the pause, the easier it becomes. At first, it feels unnatural. Your body wants to move, to speak, to strike back. But if you stay still, if you just let the wave pass, you'll feel something new, clarity. You'll start to see the moment for what it is, not what your mind exaggerated it to be. And from that clarity, you respond with intention. You say what needs to be said, or you say nothing. Either way, it's a choice, not a reaction. This is where real confidence is born, not from controlling everything, but from knowing you can handle anything. You're not here to be perfect. You're here to be present, to be powerful in your presence. And that begins with the pause. That one breath of courage that rewires your brain, calms your body, and transforms your life. Practice it, protect it, make it your default, not your last resort. Because in a reactive world, the one who pauses first wins. Not over others, but over themselves. And that victory, that's where peace lives. That's where strength begins. And that's how you become unshakable, one pause at a time. The more you train yourself to pause, the more you begin to notice what lives beneath the surface. Reactions don't come from nowhere. They come from wounds, from memories you didn't choose but still carry, from beliefs planted in you long ago, beliefs that whisper, you're not enough, you're not safe, you're not in control. These hidden scripts shape how you see the world. They decide what hurts you, what scares you, what offends you. Not because the world is cruel, but because your past is still echoing through your present. Until you face it, you will keep reacting to things that don't deserve your energy. Triggers are not proof that you're broken. They are proof that you're human. They reveal where healing is still needed. They show you the parts of yourself still asking to be seen, understood, and released. The person who criticizes you is not the real enemy. The trigger they hit is. The pain that rises is not about them. It's about the version of you that learned to see criticism as danger. Once you understand this, you stop trying to control the outside world. You start working on the inner one. That's where change begins. Not by fixing others, but by meeting yourself. Every time something triggers you, ask yourself, what belief is being activated? What story is playing in my mind? Is it telling me I'm being disrespected, rejected, abandoned? And more importantly, who taught me to believe that? When you begin asking these questions, you stop reacting blindly. You start responding with awareness.
And awareness is a disruptor. It breaks the cycle.
It shines light on the roots. And the moment you see clearly, the trigger begins to lose its power. Not because the world changed, but because you did. This is the work that builds real calm. Not pretending things don't bother you. Not avoiding conflict, but going to the source. Meeting the wound, healing the belief, and reclaiming your power. That's how you stop being controlled by your past. That's how you stop handing your emotions to other people. You learn to stand in discomfort without becoming it. You learn to witness the trigger without becoming the reaction. And that separation, that space, is strength. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be present. Present enough to recognize your triggers as opportunities, not threats. Present enough to stay when your impulse is to run. Present enough to pause, breathe, and ask, is this truth, or is this an old story trying to speak again? This is how transformation begins. You stop blaming, you stop escaping, and you begin owning every part of yourself, especially the parts you once tried to hide. That ownership is not weakness. It is the foundation of real, unshakable calm. Because the more of yourself you understand, the less control the world has over you. And when the world loses its grip, you rise, stronger, clearer, free. Once you start recognizing your triggers, a new kind of power emerges. The power to reinterpret what happens to you. Because the truth is, it's not the event itself that creates suffering. It's the meaning you attach to it. Two people can go through the same experience. One falls apart, the other grows stronger. The difference isn't in what happened, it's in how it was framed. Your mind is constantly assigning meaning to every moment. But most of those meanings come from fear, not from truth. And fear distorts everything. You were never meant to believe every thought that appears. Just because your mind says, they don't respect me, doesn't make it real. Just because you feel hurt doesn't mean you were attacked. Just because you're uncomfortable doesn't mean something is wrong. The mind is fast to judge, fast to label, fast to protect. But protection built on assumption is not strength. It's a cage. And that cage is made of interpretations you've never questioned. If you want peace, you have to break the frame. Reframing is not denial. It's not pretending everything is fine. It's the courageous act of choosing a meaning that empowers you instead of drains you. You get cut off in traffic. You can choose to see it as disrespect or as a moment to practice patience. Someone doesn't text back. You can assume rejection, or you can trust your worth without needing validation. Life won't always go your way. People won't always meet your expectations, but you can always choose how to see it, and how you see it determines how you feel. Every emotion begins with a thought. Change the thought, and the emotion changes with it. That's how calm becomes sustainable, not by eliminating problems, but by seeing them differently. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what can I learn from this? You stop seeing mistakes as shame and start seeing them as feedback. You stop making everything personal and start making everything purposeful. This mindset takes training, but every time you reframe, you weaken the old narrative. You take your power back from the situation, and you step into a higher level of consciousness, one that doesn't react from ego, but responds from wisdom. That is the difference between chaos and clarity. Not the absence of emotion, but the presence of intention. You are not at the mercy of your thoughts. You are the thinker. You are not your emotions. You are the one who feels them and lets them pass. And once you realize that, you stop needing life to be perfect in order to feel peace. You stop needing others to behave a certain way in order to feel okay. Because your calm no longer depends on anything outside of you. It lives within you, built by choice, protected by awareness, strengthened by how you frame the moment. And that frame, when chosen with intention, becomes your freedom. Freedom begins when you stop identifying with the noise inside your head. The thoughts, the stories, the judgments, they are not you. They are patterns, habits, echoes of the past. But the moment you become the observer instead of the participant, everything changes. You no longer drown in emotion. You no longer chase validation. You no longer react to protect an identity that was never real to begin with. You begin to live from stillness, not from defense. And in that stillness, you find clarity, purpose, and power that cannot be taken from you. You don't need to fix everything around you to find peace. You need to become unshakable within. Calm is not a response to comfort. It's a discipline you carry into discomfort. It's the quiet confidence of someone who no longer seeks control over the world but mastery over their mind. When you no longer react, you no longer betray yourself. You speak less, but say more. You act slower, but with intention. You stop explaining yourself to be understood and start aligning yourself to be whole. This is the shift that creates inner peace, choosing to protect your energy more than your ego. Every time you feel triggered, you are being invited to grow. Every reaction is an alarm, not a failure. It's pointing you to a belief, a wound, a pattern that wants your attention. If you run from it, you repeat it. If you meet it, you release it. This is the work, not escaping emotion, but becoming so aware of it that it no longer owns you. You start to notice the rise without becoming the rise. You feel the heat without feeding the flame. That's emotional mastery, not suppression, but presence. The ability to sit with discomfort long enough to see through it. You won't always get it right. You will still react sometimes. You will still feel the pull of old habits. But each time you return to awareness, you grow stronger. Each time you choose presence over panic, the old self weakens. This is how you rebuild, thought by thought, choice by choice. You stop living on autopilot and begin living awake. Awake to what you think, awake to how you feel, awake to what you allow. And that awareness becomes your anchor when life gets loud. When you stop reacting, you create space. And in that space, you hear your truth more clearly. You know when to speak and when to stay silent. When to walk away and when to lean in, when to let go and when to fight for what matters. No longer ruled by fear or impulse, you begin to move from alignment. And alignment never rushes, never begs, never doubts. It just knows. That knowing is what you've been searching for all along, not in others, not in outcomes, but in yourself. And it has always been there, waiting for you to get quiet enough to feel it. Waiting for you to stop reacting and start remembering who you truly are. There is a moment when you stop trying to win the world and decide to win yourself. That moment is quiet. No one claps for it. No one sees it happen. But inside you, everything shifts. You're no longer chasing peace through perfection or through the approval of others. You're no longer living on edge, bracing for what might go wrong. You've stepped into ownership. Full, complete ownership of your thoughts, your reactions, your energy. And from that place, calm is no longer something you practice. It's something you embody. You begin to realize that the real work is internal, not changing people, but changing the way you respond to them. Not controlling life, but learning how to stand steady inside of it. Because storms will come. They always do. The unexpected, the unwanted, the uncomfortable, it will find you. But your power is no longer tied to avoiding those moments. It's found in how you meet them, with breath instead of panic, with clarity instead of chaos, with presence instead of pain. That is what it means to be calm, not empty but full of choice. You don't reach this place by accident. It comes from doing the uncomfortable work, from facing the parts of you that want to react, the part that wants to shout, the part that wants to run, the part that wants to collapse. And instead of following it, you pause, you breathe, you listen, you learn to sit with your discomfort until it reveals the truth beneath it. Not the loud thought, not the emotion, but the real voice, the one that whispers beneath the noise. You are okay, you are safe. You don't need to prove yourself, you are allowed to be calm. That voice is always there, but you have to slow down enough to hear it. You have to stop reacting long enough to remember it exists. Every reaction you choose not to follow makes that voice stronger. Every moment you meet with awareness rewires your nervous system. Slowly, your body starts to believe what your mind once doubted, that you can handle it, that you don't need to rush. that you don't have to defend yourself every time you feel misunderstood, that peace is more valuable than being right, that silence is not weakness, that stillness is power. You become the one who doesn't just look calm, you are calm, not because life got easier, but because you got deeper. You've anchored yourself in something stronger than emotion, stronger than fear, stronger than ego. You've built a foundation inside that doesn't shake just because the surface does. And from that foundation, you move differently. You speak with intention, you walk with clarity, you choose with strength, you've stopped reacting, and in doing so, you've stepped into a life that's no longer ruled by noise, but by truth. A life that doesn't just appear peaceful, but actually is. Because it's been earned from the inside out. When you stop reacting, something incredible begins to happen. You start listening. Not just to others, but to yourself. To the inner signals you used to ignore. To the subtle instincts buried beneath noise. You begin to hear the difference between what's urgent and what's important. Between what your fear demands and what your truth gently asks for. And the more you listen, the more you align. The more you align, the less you chase. Because alignment doesn't chase. It attracts. It draws in what matches your energy. Calm isn't just a state of mind, it becomes a magnet. A silent invitation to everything that reflects your peace. This is why mastering your emotions is not just personal growth, it's personal power. The power to protect your time, the power to protect your energy, the power to walk away when something doesn't serve you without guilt or explanation. When you no longer react, you no longer carry what isn't yours. You stop absorbing every mood, every opinion, every problem that isn't your responsibility to fix. You stop letting people rent space in your mind for free. Your inner world becomes sacred, not cold, not closed, but guarded with love. Because peace is not passive, it is earned. And once you have it, you will not give it away cheaply. You become a different presence in the world. Someone others feel safe around. Not because you always agree, but because you're steady, grounded, real. You don't need to be loud to be heard. You don't need to react to be powerful. You become proof that strength doesn't have to shout, that confidence doesn't have to prove itself. And in a world addicted to speed, to outrage, to noise, you become rare. You become calm, and that calm makes you unstoppable. Because when you're calm, you think clearly. You move strategically, you respond wisely, you stop rushing into decisions that come from insecurity. You stop saying yes when your whole body means no. You stop letting fear write your script. Instead, you become intentional, focused, purpose-driven. You no longer waste energy fighting battles that were never yours to begin with. You rise above the noise, not in arrogance, but in awareness. You choose peace, not because life is perfect, but because you are finally unwilling to hand your power to chaos. This is the secret most never learn. That calm is not the result of what happens around you. It's the result of who you choose to become within you. It's a commitment, a discipline, a mindset, one you choose again and again, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard, because the world needs fewer reactors and more responders, fewer flames, more light. And that begins with you, right now. In this moment, no more waiting, no more blaming. Just the quiet, powerful decision to live from a place no storm can shake. Calm is not a feeling. Calm is who you are when you remember that nothing outside of you controls your peace. You've always had the power to choose, even when it felt like you didn't, even when emotions came crashing in like waves too strong to stand against. Deep beneath all the noise, behind every trigger, behind every fear, there was always a choice waiting to be claimed. The choice to pause, the choice to breathe, the choice to respond instead of react. That choice is your freedom, and it's available to you in every moment, no matter how loud the world gets, no matter how intense the feeling. The more often you choose it, the more unshakable you become. Because control isn't found in trying to change everything outside of you. It's found in learning how to rule what happens inside of you. That is the ultimate transformation. To stop being at war with your emotions, your past, your fears, and instead to become their master. To rise above them without needing to suppress them. You're not here to pretend you don't feel. You're here to feel fully, consciously, powerfully. That is the real calm, not numbness, not detachment, but awareness. The strength to sit with the storm inside you without letting it decide who you are. When you stop reacting, you begin leading. You lead your mind. You lead your energy. You lead your life. You stop being pulled by old patterns and start living by new principles. You speak from clarity, not defensiveness. You act from alignment, not fear. And every day that you choose this path, you make calm your foundation, not a temporary state you visit, but a permanent place you live from. No matter the noise, no matter the chaos, no matter who misunderstands you or how the world moves around you, you carry stillness. You walk with grace. You breathe with purpose. This is the version of you the world cannot shake. Not because life gets easier, but because you stopped giving your power away to things that don't deserve it. You don't shrink in discomfort. You don't explode in uncertainty. You meet the moment with maturity, with mastery, with a deep understanding that every reaction you withhold is a battle you've already won. And if you ever forget, if the emotion rises fast and the pull to react feels too strong, pause. Return to your breath. Your breath is the anchor. It's the bridge back to presence. And presence is where power lives, not in the past, not in the future, here, now, in this exact moment where you choose again, where you remember who you are, where you stop following the old and step fully into the new. Calm is not outside of you. It never was. It's not in the silence of others. It's in the silence you create within yourself. That is your edge. That is your strength. That is the secret of calm, to be so deeply rooted in your own presence that nothing, no person, no pressure, no moment, can pull you away from it.